And okay, we are now live. I have to go back and forth. I can't line the two cameras up perfectly. This is my technical limitation, but here we are for another edition of the people, culture, land clearings that we started a while back. So I will just give you a little history behind that. But basically, it started showing up in sessions that I was doing with people where I was clearing them, but there was also a huge impact on them by the land that they were living in. So it started with Glasgow, actually. And welcome. And I'm just kind of giving a background for those who are joining in. And so it really called to me to clear what needed to be cleared uh, in the land, because I was literally seeing dead people oozing out of the ground, because as much as there's been clearings that have been done until now, uh, we're hitting a new level in existence and in being, and it's demanding for a much deeper level of clearing. We are all going globally through a massive clearing upgrade, and so this is being called to do it. It's been an amazing experience. In last week, we did South Africa, and it was just incredible what happened. And one person commented to me afterwards that after being a participant in the session, that they were so cleaned out themselves that they started actually cleaning up their apartment. So that is a result of one of the results of participating anyway. So I am doing this on request. I'm not automatically doing them, but requests are coming in, so I will keep doing them as requested or when requested. And today we are doing the West Coast of the United States. So it's not necessarily a country, but we're doing regions. And part of the reason for doing those three, the Washington, Oregon, and California, is one, there's been a lot that's been happening there right now with the fires. And there's kind of a culture on the West Coast in the United States that is similar as and different from the rest of the United States. So sometimes I've described that area of the country of the United States as a different country, just because the culture is different. And so we're gonna start today with that. So let's start by just getting all present in our environment, where we are, wherever you are in your physical environment. So notice your physical environment. Notice where you are. Notice the physical objects around you. This is to help you ground you in your reality, because what we're going to start doing is going to tap into another dimension. And so you want to stay grounded and present with your reality, even as you are experiencing this other piece of life, of existence. So really kind of connect, look around you, notice with your senses, notice what you're hearing, what you're smelling, what you're seeing, what you're feeling, the where you're sitting, what you're sitting on, textures. And then notice your breath, and take a deep breath in, hold it for a couple counts, and then release it. And that holding helps you to really come more into the present moment. And I have to say that about 15 minutes before starting this call, the space was already forming very strongly around this area of the United States. So it does overlap beyond those strict state boundaries. It's going a little bit up into Vancouver area and down south into Mexico and east. So I kind of see it kind of going into Nevada as well, and not so much around up in the north side, but kind of around the California area, upper and lower areas of California. So there is a stretch, kind of areas that were of influence. And certainly the Colorado River area has been a part of California culture for a really long time because of the water uh, and all of that. So the space started to open up very strongly and extremely bright. And I do see a lot of entities, for lack of a better term, at the periphery of that, trying to push in. And this space is holding up very, very strongly. There's no messing around with this space and interfering with it and coming into it. So, so that's starting. That started about 15 minutes before the start of this call. So take another deep breath in for yourselves and really come into that core alignment, that core channel of pure essence that is at the center of your physical body, kind of right in front of your spine. Yeah. So, and whether you are on live right now, or if you come in later, uh, just kind of follow along and stay. Whatever you experience is good. Just stay kind of connected with your body and kind of keep coming to you back to your breath and your body. So right now the space is just this huge. It's almost like I can't really see much distinguished within this space because it's like it's filled with this very white, uh, bluish white energy, but it's like this big, huge cotton candy or cotton ball effect of the energy that is just engulfing this whole area. So a sense of really deep clearing that's happening. Um, and it's almost like this cotton candy, cotton ball energy is acting as well, like like when we use cotton ball, of just soaking up, taking in all this energy. And there's a lot of energy on, of course, around the fires, around the fault line. There's a lot of negativity that has collected along the fault line. I see that kind of the California area and south where that's coming up, and all of a sudden it's interesting because that just closes up, even though the fault line goes all the way up. But that kind of, for some reason, oh, so there's it's like that energy has come into that area already and is slowly making its way down uh, down the fault line. But it's like I'm seeing the fault lines going into the earth, and just the whole length of that is just plastered with all this distorted energy. Um, so we'll focus on clearing that. And as you participate, one of the things that you can do, or participate just even as just as witness, there's a way you participate by just being present and following along, because you are acting as a witness to what is happening. And there's a really big piece to being witnessed when you go through your healing process and being witnesses. It makes there's a way that it makes it tangible and acknowledged and seen and heard. Um, and it's interesting. South Africa there was a sphere that started to a circle that started to form, and here I just see people that those who are participating, the physical people that are participating live, just actually creating two lines down from top to bottom. We're more focused on California right now. There is some stuff that's happening in Oregon and Washington, and literally into Vancouver's in British Columbia. but the main focus right now is California, ooh, and into the Southern California. There's been a lot of negative emotions. There's been a lot of, well, the riots and tensions of that nature, but that these are older. These are not current event from this year. These are much older events from the past. Union strikes, kind of activities or breaking up of unions. The Japanese in World War II are coming up. They had a nice way of putting it. I forget what they called those, but in a sense, kind of our version of concentration camps of putting people into segregated areas. The Japanese during World War II. Ugh. And maybe not treated as badly as in concentration camps, but same kind of effect on people in terms of that oppression and that abuse and that control of the person at the spirits level. So there's a lot of that that's rising up now. That's starting to shift out. A lot of people who died in those clashes, and then there's also the Native Americans, and that's showing up higher up, so more into Northern California, up into Oregon and Washington, of that history, and a lot of sadness coming through, a lot of grief on those levels, a lot of misunderstanding of cultures, between cultures. So we also have in these areas, as we have in most areas of the world, just a whole lot of mixing of cultures that has been going on for a really long time. And in this area, there's a sense of much, much earlier than when people came uh, from the east of the United States and across, and for the gold rush, and or even before the explorers coming through, the white explorers and colored explorers as well, because they weren't just white, coming into those lands, and Native Americans also from other areas of the United States coming into that. And so this interaction of cultures, which was not was strife with just tension. Um, there's this sense of this unstated tension that was experienced by everybody, especially the ones who were local, and having these people coming in from the outside, and this sharing of your culture and following your cultural norms of sharing and opening up um, to outsiders, and not sure where this is going to take you. Always a little bit of that tension of, is this really going to be safe, in underlying all this interactions. So that's starting to clear out. A lot of people clearing out still in the southern part with the from earthquake deaths. So a lot of dead people rising up too. And a lot, there was, I was pondering for a minute, like in these other places where there was this bloody warfare that has gone on for so long, and for a lot of the history. It's not that same kind of intensity here, but it is a lot of, there was a lot of fighting, um, and yeah, it's a different type of warfare. It's much more kind of localized, and local people literally physically fighting it out, or gun shoots, guns and stuff like that, and more in more modern times of riots. So clearing out all of that, and this strife that has, this gridlock that has happened between people. So there's this surface level that people tend to experience of, yeah, we all get along, we're all good, we're all one, we're, all help each other. And then underneath it, this extreme anger, almost hatred that's there. Um, and this gridlock that was formed in part by the culture of that culture um, of being more socially oriented and being nice, and being nice in the sense of good people do this. We are good people. We love our neighbors. And that creating a gridlock so that people are not able to really open up and release what they need to release for themselves, and admit where they are, and truly just come open and says, well, this is how I really feel. And when you feel something, it doesn't mean that you act upon that, and it shouldn't, but not having that acknowledged, not being able to just express that even for just a moment, I'm feeling really pissed off right now, for example, then it just gets buried in, and people really just kind of just start going like this, and they're holding on really tight, all this stuff inside, and it's just getting cramped, and it's just getting so tight. And that's what I'm seeing, and not just individuals, in the whole culture, in the whole interaction of people. So basically, this bullshit of the surface layer and what's really happening underneath for people. So we're gonna just start to really unwind that even more and release that for people and lift up that kind of gridlock. It's literally, I see literally like this grid pattern that's formed, that's just holding everything in place. And of course, that is part of what contributes to things like the earthquakes or the fires. I mean, it seems like it's very distant and unrelated, but it's the energetic and the frequency component where you have something that's locked in and is trying to release itself. It's trying to, and it's, like for just suppressed and pushed down, and it's like it starts to explode. And anybody who is in that place of holding within themselves emotion, something deep inside, and holding it and holding it and holding it and covering up and holding it and just keeping back from it, at some point it's going to explode. How and when is a question, but so the same thing has been happening. And part of the earthquake stuff, that there's so much that gets impacted, that gets pushed down into the people, and the people into the land, into the culture, into the land, through people, that it's like it can't hold. It's going boom, and it explodes. And the forest fires are also part of that. Clearing. The forest fires are a little, yeah, there's a different feel, because it's like, especially because they're happening now. So there's so many forest fires that have happened in this area, that it's this deeper force that's coming through. It's like, we're going to clear this. Bam. Nobody's clearing it. Nobody's paying attention. Nobody's doing what they need to do at the level at which they need to do. There's a lot of people out there who are working to clear themselves, to move through all the stuff, to, do the land clearance, do the personal, and that's been going on for a long time. But we have reached critical period, and it's sort of like critical mass. It's like, no, go all the way or else it's not working. And so with the forest fires, there's this sense of that coming in, this force from outside, this force of nature coming in and saying, we're going to clear this up, clear this up, clear this up, clear this up, and just going down and hitting, because people are not paying attention. And they think they are, because of a lot of beliefs, a lot of attitudes that we have, that we tend to have, ways that we have of seeing ourselves. It's not working anymore. And it's like, time to get going. So all this is coming up and clearing out. So there's a lot that's, so that area that I was seeing at the beginning of the midsection, it's a lot that has cleared up. So I'm not seeing the fault line so strongly defined as before. And now it's like there's this white bluish tinged white. It's almost like aqua, actually, an aqua tinged l- uh, layer of land. And if you hear the cat, it's because it's about feeding time right now here, and they're just they're actually my roommate's cats. So I don't know. You might be hearing that in the background and participating in their way for this clearing. So a lot of that is coming up. Okay. I want to bring in some kind of the active, the live, physical live participants here. Um, and focus. Okay, so take another deep breath in. Mm. And anchoring yourself, really coming into that. So that's starting to form for you. I just wanted to get into that, strengthen that, bring that through more strongly for you as well. Yeah, so you guys, it's again this kind of lining up uh, down the middle, uh, these two rows. And it's interesting because it's acting as a clearing to just funnel that energy down uh, to bring in that clearing from top to bottom. So up, I'm checking on Washington because there's been such a strong focus on California with this. I want to check in on Washington and Oregon area. The redwoods up there have been really tremendous. Actually, that whole um, I'm seeing like the redwoods actually coming in, just being very strong, very present. And those are amazing trees. If you are not from the United States and you come, that is something to be seen because in experience, it's just an incredible energy, very grounding. And they have a tendency to withstand the fires because they burn at the core, and so you'll see a lot of still standing ancient redwoods that are burnt at the core, but they are still alive and thriving because their outer rim is still intact, and so they're good at withstanding forest fires actually. But they're very tall, very strong, and very present, very grounding. So I just saw some of that coming through. Yeah, Washington area. There's so another very different piece for Washington area that's coming through. Older piece from being settled, people coming from the outside and settling in those areas, and again this slight conflict of cultures who just live in an area and cultures somebody who comes in and saying, this is my land, you stay off of it. And a lot of conflict with that. um, and again, that conflict I was talking about earlier, this holding back on what needed to be done and said at the time, or asserting oneself kind of thing. And there's yeah, I'm seeing it actually jump up to Alaska. That's kind of interesting. Okay. So working for there's not so much of dead people oozing out of the ground as we've seen in some of these other locations, but a lot of people actually it's more out of cemeteries. So it's interesting because I'm seeing that coming through more in cemeteries or areas where people were officially buried, whether it's a cemetery or something less official than that coming through. And releasing. There's a very gentle release that is happening out of that. And for those who are new to this, people don't necessarily die properly. Just because they die physically does not mean that their spirit is crossing over properly. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One being that living hold on to them too much, or the dead hold on to the living too much and don't know how to let go, basically. So that's just one reason. And so they just hang out and they just stay there. And that can cause a lot of people, a lot of problems for people who are alive. Uh, so there's a lot of that happening. Really, a lot closer. I'm seeing this. Yeah, I'm kind of moving down the coast here, and off. This is going a little bit off the coast. So it's very interesting because with South, every time we're doing this, this is extremely different experience, and that there's a sense of that going out, but it's a very diffused energy as opposed to very being very specific. I needed to clear off the coastline also, so we're going to go a little further out. Taking a deep breath in, holding it for a couple counts for those who are physically present, and making sure to notice your environment again. Even if you open your eyes for just a moment, come back and close them again to go in deeper, to get anchored, or just if you keep them closed, noticing what you're sitting or standing or lying down on. Noticing that texture. Yeah, okay, there we go. So, okay, so now let's see, all the way down. I want to move all the way down because I'm noticing the south of California needs something more. And of course, there's a lot of that border tension. Um, yeah, a lot of border tension with people coming up in the spirit of why people in more modern history have come, and even before, even ancient histories, why people have come to this area of the new, coming in for the new, coming in for the possibility of a new life, and being suppressed, to put it nicely, oppressed, to put it nicely. A lot of nasty stuff actually happening to people. Um, what I would even call torture. Um, just yeah, torture, basically with yeah, very abusive, controlling. What's that word? Just that nasty abuse. I can't think of the word, but nasty abuse energy when somebody embodies that, and they're just the torturer. And really taking, wow, that's really the South California. That's actually not just that border stuff, but also that whole abuse. Well, we're seeing a lot of that come out. For example, Weinstein. And this is not about the Me Too movement. It's about that domination over another one and allowing someone else to dominate over us and feeling like we have no choice. Um, you're better off dying than to accept living in those conditions and saying no to that, because that carries through. So we're going to just clean that out. A lot of nasty stuff. This is kind of in the southern, kind of the LA, and further down. This abuse of money and power coming in, and this again, it's this basically torture of people, and God, it's yeah, it's nasty. I can't even think of words to describe what I'm tapping into, but clearing all that and that out of that area, that needs to go. And that's part of what's pushing a lot of things out of that Southern California area now, is those distortions at that level, huge amounts. So I'm going to focus in on that for probably a little bit quietly for a minute. So for also physical participants, again, just taking a deep breath in. Wow, there's a lot of emotion in this energy that I'm kind of encapsulating to move out, to release. So, yeah, so part of All right, hold on a minute. Yeah, and starting to, there we go. That's much better. Open up the space, and it's just diffusing. Setting for those of who are wondering, it's like, well, it's just pushing that into the ground, or it's like, what's happening to that energy? It's just dissipating. It's like burning off. It's like the fog burning off in the sunlight. Um, so just kind of taking a whole big package of it all at once and moving it out. And yeah, so a lot of the reasons for businesses and big businesses moving out of that area is because of the distortions. Um, and of course, I mean, there's the physical level excuses like, well, taxes and all that, but this is a kind of a core reason, a non-physical reason for that happening. Wow, this is okay. We're really going to have to focus on this lower area a little bit more. Take a deep breath in. Again, come into that core of your being and find, yes, there we go. Find that purity of your core essence. And if you're not sure, just imagine a clear channel of light just running right in down through your body in front of your spine. Okay, I'm going to line everybody up even more. Yeah, there we go. More strongly with that. Yeah. Good, nice. Just for your benefit as well as for support in, there we go. Okay. So that's starting to help to create this reference point for there's for the spirits that are in that area. So a lot of those are actually, my sense, are living. There, it's not just dead spirits, or souls, however you want to call them, and they have no reference point. Uh, in terms of people who are really aligned, and you guys who are participating are more, and just with the us working together to really bring that in. Okay. This is interesting because I can see it's it's a little hard for those, that section of land, to hold its own, so to speak, because it's connected with the rest of the United States, on a lot of levels. So, kind of stretching that boundary out towards the east, towards the East Coast, basically. And okay, so that's nice because what's happening with that is that it's helping to spread out that energy. So it's kind of bleeding out of those states. So it's kind of interesting because this is where we're focusing on a section of the United States. And so this is the first time we've done like just a section. And I can see how that there's what's happening since those areas were included in the United States, and not just as a country, but even as territories or as people were going there. So much before they were included in the United States. Um, that starts to mesh in things across borders, across state boundaries, basically, for us, but across those areas. Um, so that was interesting because with it's a little bit different flavor than with South Africa. With South Africa, there was this culture, this, because the cultures were not defined by boundaries that came in later, boundaries of the country that came in much later. So that was a much more kind of diffused beyond South African boundaries. Here, it's the opposite that's happening, is because we're looking at a section that could be considered its own country, its own state, but the influence of that boundary of the United States coming in very strongly to try to keep it intact or to keep it as part of the United States, even though in a lot of ways it's not. In its own ways, it's every state, every area, every region has a flavor, and beyond the United States, I'm talking. So there's these the way that culture and people and land kind of get interwoven. So this is part of the reason of doing these clearings that are just more than land, but also include the culture and people, because of the interweaving that happens with those different pieces and how they hold each other in place. And that can be good and that can be bad. So we're working on bringing all of that into its own alignment, the alignment of the culture, the purity of the culture, into that purity and the purity of people. So starting to enliven that in people. So I'm seeing that happening all the way. It's like all the way up, just kind of moving all the way up. And now I'm starting to see, so there were the live physical participant. Now I'm starting to see um, uh, non-physical. Well, I think a lot of those are live people, but they don't know about what I'm doing. They don't know that this is happening, and yet their spirits are showing up and are starting to line up. So there's starting to be these, and it's lines, it's rows, maybe because it's the shape of the region, um, and are lining up, and they're lighting up too as they go. So that's to help anchor in that those changes that need to come in to those areas. Very nice. Yeah, all the way, and I've got a friend who's up in Washington. I've actually seen her pop up. That's, like, so cute, and she's also on the live, but I've seen you there. I just picked up on you. That's, like, so cute to see that, um, and really, you are acting like a bright light, a bright star in that area, so hats off to you. Um, okay. So that's opened up. There's still a lot of darkness. Wow, this is interesting because it's like, all right. So that begs the question. This is not shifting as easily. So that just begs the question as to what is causing this to be held on to so strongly. So let me just tap in. So this is this piece. So this is for all of us, whether this is happening. So here I'm doing this clearing, but again, asking yourself this question at the personal level. Uh, w- there's a sense of with what I'm seeing needs to be cleared, and the reason is there's this pressure to stay with, basically stay with the United States. There's a lot of tension with the current administration. I've actually seen that. Um, so it begs the question, is like, what in this area here is causing that to get anchored? So when you have opposition to yourself, when you have tension from the outside to yourself, it's coming back to right in here. What's going on inside of me that's causing this to come back to me, to be my experience in life, um, that's creating it. So okay. So there is a financial tie in California I'm talking about. So part of what I'm seeing happening is kind of, there's a little bit of this mentality that we see in people who don't necessarily, maybe don't have a lot of money and are have this thing where they feel that they deserve to be helped. They should be helped. I mean, deserve isn't quite the right word. And because yeah, I've experienced that personally, people living on the street a long time ago, expecting to be given to by someone who has some money because they don't have money because they're just expecting it. It's like, how come you're not doing it? So there is that piece that's coming up here. So let's shift this in the mentality and the culture of this area here. That's more that's more up in the northern half of California into Oregon area. That more that upper half in Washington. Yeah, okay. Now it's like as I'm focusing in on that in that area, it's people are I'm seeing the reaction of kind of the mass reaction of going, oh wow, okay, whoa, there's something different we can do. It's like so that's opening up the at that deeper level, opening up. Um, okay, and there's this whole piece. Okay, working a little bit more on this letting go piece here because that's just there's an attitude there about being better because they're all it's like, well, we're better because we are good because we care about the environment, we care about whatever. Oh, I just noticed this comment. Homelessness is huge in all those areas right now. Yes. And it's not just the homeless. So yeah, that's a good point. And it's not just the homeless. It's just a little bit of that mentality of with that we see with anybody who has less money. We see that with extremely rich people too. So it's not about poor people, but people who are just like this. I can't think of the word um, where they just feel that they're owed to, and because you have more money, whoever you is, the other person, you know, you're supposed to give this to me, kind of thing. Um, so yeah, yeah, and a lot of homelessness in that area because the weather helps supports that. It's easier to be homeless where it's warmer than when it's freezing cold. Um, so that impacts those areas more strongly. So yeah. So let's yeah, so that's thanks for bringing that up because now that's really bringing that section of the culture to the forefront. And let's help those people who are homeless to also wake up. Whatever they choose to do, some of them might be perfectly okay with being homeless right now. And in that particular lifestyle for the moment, but let's open that up. And I'm not saying all of them, but there are some people that I've met who are, you know, this is fine with me. I don't want to do anything more. This is and part of that is getting into the demands of, you know, commitment and responsibility for other things for other people and um, but for the majority there I know there's majority of people do not necessarily choose to be homeless, but because of abuse patterns that they have, um, that they fall into this living on the street and not being able to take care of themselves, having lost that sense of self to the point where they just don't know what to do for themselves and are just completely lost. So there's a lot of that coming through. So clearing that out and just bringing in starting to bring in that spark of sense of self and deserving uh, when we connect to that. When we start to feel that sense of self and that we are important, regardless of who we are or how we live or how we look, Yeah, okay, that's starting to light up. That's nice. It's not about it's not about that external stuff. It's about what you carry inside. And while we all carry a lot of baggage and, to varying degrees, deep down inside of the core of our being is this spark of the divine, if we want to call it that way, of purity, of pure truth, of the essence of what we are. Yeah. So that's starting to kind of get lit in lots of people. So they're still carrying a lot of distortion around them, but it's that little spark is in there, and sometimes it's better to just do a little spark and let that grow on its own than just clear out people completely, because that can be very distorting, and pull people even further back into their distortions, hold on to their distortions even more. So just that little light, that's kind of like this glimmer of hope, kind of that little light at the end, that far end of the tunnel. Or if you're in a really huge room, dark, no light whatsoever, completely total dark, and you light a match. And even at the far corners of that room, there will still be dark, but there will be that flicker, that light that comes in. So that's what's happening all the way through. Yeah, there's a lot of those people. So my sense is that, let's see, just tune in a little bit more. This is in process of shifting. So there's this, let's create this just flow of energy so that that helps with the release going on, and provides, and for the space to keep holding, for that to slowly dissipate. There's a sense that this is not gonna clear up completely, or as cleanly as it has in other countries, but it will start to dissipate slowly, little by little, and a lot gentler approach. Yeah. So I also want to bring into this space is, oh, the sense of newness, neutrality. So neutrality helps us to look at something in a new way and does not get into opposites. So opens the space for looking at all the possibilities instead of going, well, this way, that way. No, it's got to be this way. It's got to be that way. It's like, no, let's look at all possibilities. So that's coming in. Yeah, just this neutrality. That's good. Settling in. And the soothing energy. I think that's helpful for everyone, regardless of situation, regardless of which side of the coin we're on, because deep down inside, there's always that need for just this gentle soothingness to help with the healing. So being held in kind of that soothing atmosphere to release the tension. Okay, yeah, much better. So a lot of cleanup that still needs to happen here for this region. It's in process. And I'm going to kind of bring it to a close. Just leaving that space. Yeah, so very nice. So that there's a calmness that's really starting to come into that area. Yeah, it's kind of that calm that shows up after there's been this huge storm, devastating storm that goes through the whole area. And then after the storms pass, it's just calm, this calmness. And in that's when the cleanup really starts. That's when the coming back together starts. That's when the opening up to others, the seeing what we really need to be paying attention to in life. What are the important pieces in life? So that's that calm I'm feeling that's surrounding that area now. So it looks like a train wreck, but there's that calm, and it's like, okay, part of that sometimes, I've seen this with people. It's like when I've worked in sessions, is that we've come to a clearing, we've come to a point. It's like, well, okay, there's all this cleanup that looks like it needs to happen, but it's also good to just sit there, notice all the crap that's been thrown out, or in the case of a storm, like a major storm, like an earthquake or a hurricane or something, where there's debris everywhere. But it's also good to kind of stay in that debris as much as we might want to have it cleaned up, because that will help to bring awareness to. It's like, holy shit, this is what we were dealing with, and let's change this. So the energy over the whole area right now is very, just there's a stillness there, and that deep stillness, partly of the stillness that's in existence, and partly that's then and that stillness that comes through after the train, so after the train wreck, after the storm, where people can just be in that space of that silence and just kind of open up and kind of say, okay, time to rebuild, time to start over again, and time to just get rid of all this trash, all this garbage. Let's pick it all up. Let's join forces in a new way. So I see that happening all the way through here. That okay. Taking a deep breath in for yourselves, really coming into your physical body, noticing your physical body, breathing into that, and just noticing your breath, coming into that alignment, that purity of your being, in that stillness. And take a moment to just notice the stillness around you as you notice your physical body, in your physical environment, in that stillness. And how healing it is to take that moment to be in that stillness of being, in the present moment. Oh, very nice. Okay, taking another deep breath in, coming into that core of your being, and then opening your eyes if they're not open. So thank you for joining. I'm going to end on YouTube. Oh, Instagram Live. I think we've got maybe about 5 minutes, but I'll end on YouTube.